I think we have benefited much from this government.
We can also include the customers we get our fabrics from, because to an extent too, we're also increasing their income.
With these, we foresee Cross River State liberated from purely a civil service economy to an industrialized one.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
This vaccine is safe and it has been certified safe and usable by NAFTA.
No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together. Let's stop fighting each other. Let us live as one. It doesn't matter where you come from, your tribe or religion, man, woman or child. It doesn't matter who you are. Put Nigeria first. No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together.
How can we develop when we're always in crisis? Families have become refugees in their country. No matter our differences, show some understanding.
No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together.
Taraba State is located in the northeastern geopolitical zone of Nigeria. The state derived its name from the Taraba River, which crosses the southern part of the state. The state is bordered to the west by Benue and Plateau states and to the east by Cameroon. It is also referred to as the nature's gift to the nation. The reason for that is not far-fetched for sure. Tourism potentials which abound in the state as well as numerous natural resources there testify to that. From the Mambila Plateau, with its scenic beauty, Gashaka-Gumti National Park, which could rightly be termed primate's paradise owing to numerous primate species found there, and of course, Nigeria's largest national park, to Donga River, which provides such a beautiful riverbank with accompanying fishing viability among others, offer a visitor or tourist pleasing sights to enjoy while in Taraba State. The state is largely a land of hills and lowlands that fascinate visitors all year round. View now some sprawling rock formations that beg for exploration in the nature's gift to the nation. Kwambo rock formations are a famous wonder of nature that give a unique spread of rocks which have a human appearance with flowing gown. Historically, Kwambo rock plays a very significant role in the lives of the people in Kwambo community. Myth has it that the Kwambo rock formation offered protection to the people of Kwambo in the ancient times, a role it still plays today. During war times, the people of Kwambo in Usa local government area of Taraba State do not need to panic as their safety is guaranteed. A sound of trumpet, once blown for that purpose, does the magic. This, of course, is because the cave under the Kwambo rock opens for the entire people to hide inside it for as long as the war would last. For security reasons, however, we were not taken to the point of the cave's opening.
Especially during the time of war. If there is war, when there is a sound of trumpet, when the people of Kwambo heard that there is a sound of trumpet, they will run to that place. Then there is a hole under the mountain. The hole will just open. Then all the people will now run inside the hole, and the hole will just close naturally. Nobody will open it and nobody will close it. It will open and close naturally for the people to be safe. Actually, they were standing together like this. That is a female and a male. So when that explosion occurred, the two of them, they separate like this. Then after some time, they came back together like this, and they're in the same shape now.
In fact, the Kwambo rock formation does not only offer ready protection for Kwambo people, but does not even allow wars or fatal conflicts to engulf or even reach Kwambo community. Therefore, aside the natural beautiful features of Kwambo rocks, which are of tourist potentials when tapped, the feeling of security which the rocks provide makes the Kwambo people enjoy living in the Kwambo community. It makes them feel at home always. The magnificent Urufu rocks at Urufu village, also at Usa local government area, is another truly wondrous rock with historical significance in Taraba State. The rock has a long history. It was the first point of settlement of the people of Rufu. Like many ancient settlements in Nigeria, the people of Rufu settled at the top of the magnificent Rufu rock to evade attacks by enemies during wars in ancient times. This mighty and attractive rock indeed provided a safe haven for the Rufu people. They lived at the top of the rock. They farmed at the top of the giant rock where they hunted for wild animals for their balanced diet. Their source of water was also at the top of the rock, and life was surely enjoyable.
My father told me how our grandparents came and met this rock and settled on top of it. At that time, the rock was not in the open as it is today. It was inside a forest. Numerous big trees surrounded it. Then a lot of wild animals were there, including monkeys and even hyenas. We lived up the hill when I was still a small boy. Gradually, the forest which covered the rock was destroyed. Even the palm trees we are seeing around were so much more than what obtains today. The rock served as a very important hideout where there were wars.
Around the rock at Rufu, there lie abundant solid mineral deposits which, when harnessed, would benefit the federal government's drive for the development of the solid mineral sector. Curiously, we set out while admiring the beauty of the Rufu rock to explore, at least to publicize, so as to encourage further exploration by relevant authorities the availability of solid mineral deposits.
Yeah, we have a large chunk of deposit of barrels and other solid minerals, as you mentioned. But the problem we have is that the government, both at the federal and state level, need to do a lot, because at the moment it is only the local miners that are engaged in these mining activities. We are appealing to the federal government to see how they can mobilize the Ministry for Solid Minerals to come and tap these minerals for the benefit of our community and the country at large.
Surely, our curiosity paid out as we were led to an abandoned illegal mining site. As the present Nigeria seeks to fortify the development of the solid mineral sector, Rufu village is open to contribute in that regard, in addition to the tourism potentials presented by the giant and historic Rufu rock. Interestingly, while exploring the tourism potentials of Rufu rock, our exploration reveals the abundant deposits of export quality woods gotten from Madrid trees which grow widely at Rufu environs, just like at numerous other places in Taraba State.
This Madrid, there are companies that are coming to fell these trees and carrying them out for business. So we're appealing to the government that they should assist us, and if there are any seedlings, they should bring for us so that we plant to replace the ones that they have fell down, so that we should not be affected by a drought or another thing in time to come. Government should look into the problem of our road, because just as it is now, from here to Takum, just some kilometers to Takum, we don't have good road that will link us to Takum.
Multiple income generating environment you can call the Rufu village and its environs. This tourism potential rock at Rufu is attractive, and the surrounding holds a great future for the nation. While we explore the magnificence, beauty and historic significance of the Rufu rock, we might as well be making yet another discovery in terms of oil discovery. The claim by a member of Rufu community caught our attention, so we believe there is no harm in trying. He believes oil may be found in Rufu, specifically at a point where he had asked someone to dig a well for him.
Having grown up in the family house and got ready to have my own house, I got a plot of land and began to build my own house. As part of that, I contracted someone to dig a well for me. While he was doing that, a very strong and choking odor of oil forced him to stop. Doing inside the well is oily, and the smell is that of crude oil. I strongly believe there is crude oil here. I therefore urge that further exploration be carried out so that the benefit comes to our entire state and the country at large.
Taraba State is dotted with high mountains and plains. We have shown some of the fascinating rocks which decorate these mountains. There is indeed more to be seen that would fascinate the viewer the more. The tourist, no doubt, would have true value for time and money. This takes us to Zing, local government area of the state. The move is to get to the sprawling rock formation at Bitako area of the local government. Before then, however, let us have a look at the Zandi mountain. It has enormous significance to Zing. This lion-faced mountain is one of the foremost tourist attractions in the area. Large deposits of solid minerals are found both around the Zandi mountain and spread all over Zing local government area of Taraba State. Solid minerals found in this area include diamond, silver, and gold, among others. These solid minerals, as well as the tourist sites when developed, would go in line with the need to diversify Nigeria's economic base.
Zing, as a community, has so many tourist catchment areas which supposed to have enhanced since. But because of the fact that resources have not been made available, effort has not been made earlier on, these available resources are still yet to be enhanced. We are calling on the present government and various individual investors we have, both within the nation and then the international community, to come and see to their own or by their own eyes of the famous resource we have in the land, in the community, so that it will give them an ample opportunity to create areas of revenue generation to the land and to themselves. Because we have so many opportunities, so many resources to be enhanced in our land, which are yet to be tapped. And we call on the interested bodies, both within the nation and then the international wise, to come and harness these resources.
The Bitako Hills are sprawling rock formations situated in Zing, and the site as well as the spread of the formations are marveled at by both natives and visitors alike. The area where you have numerous postures of rock formations is massive and truly inviting to all types of visitors and tourists. If you really want to catch a beautiful sight that will soothe your mind, as we view how nature has beautifully distributed formations of rock that will continue to linger. The place to be is Bitako in Taraba State, northeastern Nigeria. Between the numerous rock formations, beautifully spread are lands that are suitable for farming, and the locals take advantage of that. Although our visit to Bitako was towards the end of dry season with no rains yet, planting had begun.
They are making it fast for them to drop their seeds into the soil, so that whenever the first rainfall drops, it can now come and meet the already planted seeds inside the ground. Because the seeds, the ground is already dried, so it cannot get the seeds rotting and then give a wider space before another rain comes up.
Heaps of yams are visible at some places to further show the fertility of the land area, which also display another aspect of beauty of the Bitako Hills valleys. The root of any generation should not in any way be forgotten. At the center of the area covered by the numerous rock formations at Bitako, we came across a dry pond which the indigenes say is significant to the unity of Bitako people.
For long, let's say 15 to 16 centuries, our forefathers have been using this when we migrated or from Europe to this place. And that is why we align this place to be our center for focus. Even when the white man comes into our community here, as it is a pond, there he stands with his horse and feed his horse with water. So that is why the Bitakos tag this place as an important aspect in the community, as a unity stand.
Bitako rock formations, with its spread, beauty and land, offer a nice and ideal picnic ground which could accommodate numerous groups of picnickers.
Bitako scenery is very, very nice. It's very, very good looking. There are mountains and the leyland is very attracting actually. So, as I earlier said, we have other places that we want the government to come and survey to see how attracting they are. We have so many tourist areas. Actually, Bitako comes first. Then if you go sideways, around Lama Dinding and up the hill, there are very good tourist areas. But unfortunately, it has not come to light to the government. So we will employ the government to at least come and see, with the aim of trying to activate them, to bring them to light, so as to foster revenue generation, not only to the local government, but the state and the federation as a whole, if they are properly handled.
With the development in the film industry in Nigeria, Bitako rock formations, which are wide in their spread, offer good locations for film productions. Scenic locations that can only be seen at Bitako abound. Try a trip to Bitako and have your holiday spent as you engage in sightseeing for at least a day. Surely it will be memorable. Nigeria's tourism sector would be given a boost once places like Bitako rock formations are given the desired attention. Remember, it is located in Taraba State, no doubt a nature's gift to the nation.
The vaccine offers hope for a safe country free of coronavirus. I urge all state governments, traditional and religious leaders to take the lead in the mobilization effort within their environment and spheres of influence. I similarly urge all eligible Nigerians to present themselves and be vaccinated in accordance with the order of priority already mapped out at the various authorized designated centers only.
Understanding the universal language and timeless qualities that every great art piece exudes is a quest for many. Art is a means of communication, a symbol of humanity, depicting aesthetics in various forms. Art connotes strength and visibility as a way of preserving heritage, promoting culture, and painting pictures of our daily realities. This young artist examines tales of the eyes, mind, and body through his works.
My work is more of the real life and of ordinary Nigerians, the women, the children. It's not a painful art, it's just their joys, their moments of doubt, their moments of sorrows too. I draw with raw charcoal on cloth. I just burn them and just make the charcoal.
A combination of brevity with comprehensive suggestiveness that appeals to one's sensibility. One cannot ignore the depth each art piece possesses. But how well do people appreciate and understand these artworks?
You can see they are about to cross the road. So I saw the painting that you look before you leap. The child at the mother's back is relaxed. That means she trusted the mother so much that she is capable of protecting her from any danger.
When I look at that painting or this one, it tells me something, and I'm able to understand the strength of a woman. And looking at this painting, I could easily relate with the average Nsukka woman. I'm from Nsukka. That's the strength of the Nsukka woman.
I like the media, charcoal work. I've used it before. And I like the way he's using it in his pictures to create definition, to show light and shadow. Yeah. So particularly, I like this artwork because of the theme, showing independence, and because I like being an independent woman, and I believe every woman should be independent and they can be able to do anything that they desire to do.
One or two things that I pick here is that it teaches us about what
what are we proposing in the nearest futures. Look at the woman in the there is showing that, okay, you can better yourself where you are, not necessarily when you move to cities. So people in the rural area, they too, if you are content with what you have.
Every art piece speaks to the soul, with its peculiar references to details, although we may sometimes get lost while trying to understand its central message, and this can only be related by the artist.
This is one of my favorite pieces. The piece is actually recent. I title the work The Gaze. For some reason, something captures their attention, and whatever they are looking at, it's not making them sad, it's not making them happy. Children actually look up to their parents to see whatever they are doing. And there's this saying that history repeats itself. And so I try to use this piece to show a girl, to show the world whom she is in the light of day. And I used it to apply to relationships between people, to apply to marriages. I see openness and transparency as one of the strong keys to a successful, cordial relationship.
Every artist has a unique approach and diversity to its interpretation. However, despite its broad approach to our daily realities, art appreciation and collection still poses a major challenge in this part of the world.
Promoting art in primary schools especially, we try to encourage children from the beginning, the primary schools, the importance of arts. They will understand that it's also a profession that somebody can easily really enjoy and, express themselves through.
I think art gives a lot of story about a country or people or a nation, and we should always preserve artwork. Because it will be used in future generations to tell a story of the past.
We don't really blame those that don't appreciate art. You have to have conquered, food as a problem to be able to appreciate things like luxurious things. Most of us, we live a life of survival. It starts from building ourselves as a nation first before we can actually appreciate art.
Art is no doubt a benchmark for nation building, a great assurance to sustainable growth, especially with the strings of creative expressions all around the country. If only we can look within and let every art piece we set our eyes on speak to our minds and body, then art's appreciation will become more valuable.
From dusk to dawn, 24 hours a day, NTA International is with you in your living room, office, everywhere and anywhere. We provide the company you desire in terms of balanced and up-to-date news, programs and the best of entertainment. Tune in to DSTV channel 251, GoTV channel 91, Freeview UK channel 264, or you can download www.visiontv.co.uk. App for iOS or Android. You can also see us on Facebook and YouTube for quality content on the go. NTA International, Africa's window to the world.
NTA Parliament is a dedicated 24-hour channel that broadcasts activities of the Nigerian Senate, Federal House of Representatives, and all the 36 state houses of assembly. NTA Parliament, strengthening Nigeria's democracy.
Federal government extols the nation's armed forces as the symbol of national unity.
It is the struggle
to realize the words of our national anthem and make Nigeria a land where peace and justice reign.
ECOWAS closes borders with Mali in response to delayed elections by military junta.
Zamfara State Governor pledges support for victims of latest bandit attacks.
To form a team of security so that we should go along with these people that run away from their communities, and we are going to allow my Commissioner of Security and Humanitarian to stay behind so that to do all the necessary assessment.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the war against insurgency.
All right, an American journalist, Richard Engel, was saying the obvious when he said, and I quote him, "Insurgency are easy to make but hard to stop," unquote. And of course, that captures the Nigerian scenario where so much has been achieved in the fight against insurgency, but the menace itself is a hydra-headed monster.
That's the best way to describe it, Claire. And you know, because we recall that the Nigerian military recaptured several local government areas that were strongholds of Boko Haram in 2015 and announced that the insurgents have been technically defeated, which comes to Nigerians as a huge sigh of relief from the reign of terror unleashed by the insurgents in the past, Claire.
But like fire that refuses to go out completely, the ragtag army of the fleeing insurgents are focusing on soft targets in the human population to carry out their nefarious attacks, and of course give us the impression that they are still a force to reckon with, manifesting in various criminal formations such as banditry and kidnapping, terrorizing sub-targets, especially in the northeast, and of course the northwestern part of the country.
As it is often said, Claire, they say a sinking man will certainly want to hold on to something while going down. Now, the continued onslaught by the Nigerian military against the insurgents led to hundreds of insurgents being neutralized, including their factional leaders such as Shekau and Banawi. Also, scores of the terrorists have in recent times surrendered, and many more are still surrendering to the superior firepower of the Nigerian troops in a renewed vigor to win the fight against insurgency.
But as we said earlier on, like the hydra-headed monster, terrorism is also manifesting through banditry and other forms of criminality, and therefore it is not yet a huru for the Nigerian troops, who sometimes pay the supreme price in defense of our territorial integrity and sovereignty of the Nigerian state. However, it is gladdening for many Nigerians that a court of law has declared bandits terrorists, and that declaration has also been gazetted by the federal government, which means this might just be the beginning of the end of banditry, terrorism, or insurgency, as you may, in Nigeria.
Hopefully, we pray.
Hopefully, too.
Hopefully, we pray.
Hopefully.
The Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Muhammadu Buhari, has done the needful and all that is required in terms of motivating the troops with equipment such as 12 Super Tucano fighter jets procured and imported into the country, and improved welfare for the rank and files, especially those in the front line. All these measures are projected to be game changers in the fight against insurgency in the country.
So Nigerians and indeed the international community cannot wait to see the end of insurgency in Nigeria, as there cannot be meaningful development without peace in the country. And indeed, there are so many issues that we get to deal with, including COVID. So what are the challenges and the prospects in the fight against insurgency? That will be our focus on Good Morning Nigeria today. And as you can't reliably trust us, NTA, we shall be having the top, brass of the military who command the troops and other analysts also giving us their perspective into the progress being made so far in the war against insurgency. You certainly don't want to miss our show today. So on this note, I welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria. As always, it's the beginning of the working week. I am Claire Adilabu Abdulrazak.
Indeed, you won't want to miss this edition of Good Morning Nigeria. I join my colleague Claire in welcoming you to the program. But we have our complimentary segments to back up our conversation. And, well, before the news starts, let's get Ifeoma to smile and say good morning. Ifeoma, it's good to see you. Happy New Year.
Good morning, Jumai. Happy New Year. And good morning, Claire. Here is the morning news. As a country with cultural diversity, the Nigerian Armed Forces remains the symbol of resilience, unity and progress of the country. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, represented by Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, echoed this at the 2022 Armed Forces Remembrance Day interdenominational church service held at the National Christian Center, Abuja.
To realize the words of our national anthem and make Nigeria a land where peace and justice reign. And every victory that our armed forces reap through their immense courage and toil in the teeth of danger serves to bring the new Nigeria into being.
ECOWAS leaders have resolved to close borders with Mali and as well impose economic sanctions on the country. This is in response to the tactics of the military authorities who had toppled democratically elected government to delay elections earlier scheduled for the 27th of February this year. The Malian Transitional Authorities is proposing to hold the elections in December 2025 instead of the agreed dates. But after hours of deliberations by the ECOWAS leaders at an extraordinary summit in Accra, Ghana, the leaders found the proposed timetable for the transition unacceptable. In a communique, members agreed to impose more sanctions, which include the closure of land and air borders with Mali, freezing of the Malian state assets in ECOWAS central and commercial banks, and the suspension of non-essential financial transactions with immediate effect. Meanwhile, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has described as unprecedented the actions of the ECOWAS against unconstitutional takeover of power in the region, stressing that this is no longer fashionable and unacceptable. Speaking to newsmen after an extraordinary summit of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State in Accra, Ghana, the Vice President says the Commission has shown that it has not lost its bite and the concern about democratic enterprise in the ECOWAS region, which is the reason for the sanctions against Guinea and what is proposed against Mali.
What is being done is what is unprecedented. In the years gone by, the Africa Union, or then known as the Organization of African Unity and ECOWAS, never came down heavily on coups d'etat. But it's evident now that there is very strong resolve that ECOWAS and indeed the AU, and in fact the international community, will not accept unconstitutional takeovers of government in the forms of coups d'etat and other such unconstitutional means of taking over authority. So it's very evident that there is very strong resolve, which is why we're here today.
And back home, a wildlife conservation campaign that will coordinate multi-stakeholders' efforts aimed at protecting wildlife in Nigeria has been launched in Lagos by the Minister of State for Environment, Sharon Ikazo.
Customs has come up with a lot of seizures of ivory and pangolin scales, and this is all part of our collaborative effort. And we're coming up with a national strategic plan on illegal wildlife trade.
President Muhammadu Buhari will embark on a state visit to Ogun State on Thursday, January 13th, 2022. In a statement by the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor, Kunle Shomori, the President during the visit will inaugurate some of the infrastructural projects executed by Governor Dapo Abiodun. The statement adds that President Buhari will be welcomed at the Gateway Citygate Monument Park, Shagamu, interchange at 10 a.m., where the first project will be inaugurated. Apart from the Gateway Citygate, other projects expected to be inaugurated by the President include Ijebu Ode Mojoda Ekpe Expressway and 2 housing estates, the 527-unit low and medium Kobakpe housing estates, and the highbrow 83 duplexes at King's Court Estate at Oke Mosang, Abeokuta. Zamfara State Governor Bello Mohammed has reassured the communities recently attacked by fleeing bandits in Anka and Bokuyum local government areas of the state that government is committed to addressing the humanitarian crisis arising from the unfortunate incident as efforts are being intensified towards achieving lasting peace. The governor made the remark while on a sympathy visit to the ravaged communities where 58 persons have been confirmed dead.
Security, so that they should go along with these people that run away from their communities, and we are going to allow my Commissioner of Security and Humanitarian to stay behind so that to do all the necessary assessment before taking them back to their respective communities.
That's the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Jumaye and Claire after this break.
Everybody knows the secret to good cooking is that special ingredient. The mothers know it. But does this new generation know it? Let's find out. Mothers, daughters, are you ready? Yes! Let the cooking begin.
Erisco tomato paste. Now we get home, now we get love, now we get children. We spice the world with a meal so great and so healthy. You know we've got your back. Oh, with Erisco, Rigico, Nagico.
Ladies and gentlemen, food is ready.
Food of lovers. Tomato paste. Good food for the body. Yum yum for the body.
Erisco Rigico and Nagico tomato paste is made by Erisco Foods Limited, feeding Africans with healthy foods.
The digital switchover project, which is commonly referred to as DSO, which entails television channels switching from analog to digital broadcasting, is one of the biggest projects embarked upon by this administration. Branded as Free TV, offers its viewers about 60 digital channels, including sports, music, movies, and news. The federal government has licensed about 23 set-top box manufacturers. 7 of them have self-production, employing several thousands of people. We've made it now compulsory for all stations in Nigeria to only broadcast productions made in Nigeria for products which are produced in Nigeria.
The 157-kilometer Lagos-Ibadan Railway is the first double-track standard gauge railway to be built in West Africa. The Mobolaji Johnson train station is a masterpiece, an infrastructure that is gradually becoming an iconic building in Lagos State. The modern facilities put the station on a world map of train stations. Likewise, other new train stations across the country built to world-class standards. The train and its convenience is indeed an admirable effort, with commendations from Nigerians.
This is a station that we have to commend the federal government for putting a beautiful face, empowering us in Lagos State, not only in economic and political arena.
I can say that I'm really impressed with the infrastructures in place. Kudos to the Minister of Transportations. Kudos to the federal government.
Truly, good things are coming out of Nigeria, and the federal government is deserving of all the applause.
The 2022 Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration is here again. The Nigeria Armed Forces work tirelessly day and night to give us peace to go about our businesses. Some have paid the supreme price. Should we forget the families and loved ones they left behind? No.
I am therefore privileged to honor these veterans who devoted most of their lives, active lives, to securing the nation and the world
at large. So, let's support the Nigerian Armed Forces and their families, corporate organizations, government agencies, parastatals, and individuals. Let's show our love and support for our armed forces. They are our heroes. Buy the Armed Forces Remembrance Emblem and donate into the Armed Forces Remembrance Emblem Appeal account. We love you, and your labor and sacrifice will not be in vain for spilling your blood for us to live.
From the heart of the Federal Capital Territory
to the ancient city of Kano,
from the sprawling rooftops of Ibadan
to the bustling markets of Aba and the creeks of the Niger Delta, you really can't beat the rich.
Over the years, we have kept going, keeping you informed, educated, and entertained.
And how have we survived in the very challenging year?
Because of our pillars of support, namely the 3 tiers of government: ministries, departments, and agencies,
corporate bodies and advertisers,
religious bodies,
civil society groups,
political parties, and most importantly, you, our esteemed viewers. Together, we made 2021 great.
And together, we shall make 2022 greater. Thank you.
From all of us here at NTA, your season's greetings and a prosperous new year.
This is Good Morning Nigeria, broadcast live on the network service of the NTA. And we're moving on to our next segment, which is business news, and Kunle Adeye has it.
The federal government has stated that the recovery of the economy will be paramount in the execution of the 2022 budget, saying the 17.127 trillion naira budget of economic growth and sustainability will improve the general living conditions of Nigerians. A professor of capital market, Uche Uwaleke, said implementation of some aspects of the budget is inevitable.
The government to focus more on implementing the capital component of the budget. You know, the aggregate capital spending in that projected spending is represents 35% of the budget. That's an increase over what we had the previous year, and as a matter of fact, over what we've had for quite some time. So it's important that the capital component is given attention because as you improve infrastructure, roads, power, rail, okay, they have a way of rubbing off positively, on the economy in general. I would also want government to give attention to the agri sector. That's important because that's what will help to reduce the level of inflation we have in this country. Inflation rate at 15.4, you realize is more of food. It's the food components that is food inflation that is actually driving inflationary pressure. So if we can bring down food inflation, okay, inflation rate will come down.
He emphasized that the intervention of the Central Bank of Nigeria in the agricultural sector should be scaled up. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeye.
Thanks, Kunle, for the business package. Next is newspaper review.
And it's a new day. Bayo Atebe is right here with us in the studio to do his usual newspaper review. Bayo, we're glad to have you join us.
I'm glad to meet you here too. Good morning, Claire.
Hope you had a restful weekend.
Yes, very restful. Good morning, Nigeria.
AFCON started yesterday.
Yes.
And a good note for Cameroon and Cape Verde.
Yes.
They got their 3 points.
Yes.
Hopefully.
That makes the competition in the Group A very, very keen. Super Eagles will be set in 2 days' time. And they are set to demolish the pharaohs of Egypt.
Hopefully. We pray they win.
Say your wish as you want it, and it will be blessed from above.
Exactly.
Let's quickly take a look at the stories trending. Let's begin with The Nation. And The Nation leads with NLC mobilizes for protest against hike in petrol price. It has a rider there, action plan for January 27. That's the lead story. And picture story beneath the lead story, West African leaders at the extraordinary summit of ECOWAS, Authority of Heads of State and Governments, after a meeting on the political situation in the Republic of Mali in Accra, Ghana yesterday. And of course, you must have heard of the latest decisions by the community on ECOWAS. Sanctions will be imposed, and the vice president representing the president of our president there also in that picture. You can see him right at the back there. Other stories on the front page. Expert CBN policies can't rescue the Naira. It continues on page 11. Now on Easy Calm in APC Governors Camp over Convention. You can also pick up details of this story on page 11. Let's quickly take you a little above the nameplate. And the nameplate we have Ganduje bin Arabi pray for peace and security. And AUGF queries BPE over hidden 14.7 billion Naira proceeds. You can read up that on, of course, the very first page. Now, ECOWAS hits Mali with border other sanctions. I just read out to you. NSAS insurance set aside 13.2 billion Naira compensation. My other paper we want to look at quickly is the Blueprint newspaper, if we can have it on screen. And it begins with the lead story, Blueprint newspaper. It begins with the lead story, and which I will read out to you in a moment. The lead story of Blueprint. Can we have Blueprint, please? And it says, Senate tackles BPE over 14.7 billion Naira hidden PHCN privatization proceeds. BPE faults audited accounts. And there's also the story on Matawali on Zamfara massacre. Political bandits, yellow journalism threatening my government. Details of that on page 6. Orders to construction of villages destroyed by bandits. Supporting Southeast presidency will be Buhari's greatest legacy. Okechukwu. And other stories trending on the front page.
Let's quickly go to the Punch newspaper, and the bold headlines we have is enforce compulsory vaccination for local government, state workers, FG tells governors. And with riders, MPHCDA urges states to set up mass vaccination sites in markets, orders, vaccination grounds at 4.2%, 38 deaths recorded first week of January. At the side piece of the Punch newspaper, Convention, APC awaits peace panel's report, aggrieved members list conditions, details on page 8. Kuka's invitation, summon Gumi for hobnobbing with bandits, Christian youths tell DSS. And above the name piece of the Punch newspaper, Senate probes 14.7 billion Naira PHCN privatization fund in secret accounts. Capital importation falls by 1.68 trillion, says CBN. FG issues Lassa fever alert. Death toll hits 102. Cases now 4,632. At the top of the Punch newspaper, FG excessive borrowing from CBN threatens exchange rate orders. That's a report coming from and you find the details on page 23. And the picture story you see there, the Nations Cup that just began yesterday. Mola, the mascot of the Africa Cup of Nations, during the opening ceremony of CAR 2021 football tournament at State D. Elembe in Yaoundé. Bayo, quickly.
Thank you. Let's start with the good news that is coming from Zamfara. 30 students of the Federal Government College, Yaoundé, Kebbi State, and one teacher were released yesterday. They gained their freedom over the weekend. This brings to 73 the total number of students that has been rescued so far. 3 teachers have also regained their freedom. About 102 persons, comprising 94 students, 4 teachers, and 4 non-academic staff, were abducted from the college sometime in June. Special advisor to security of the governor, Colonel Rabiu Kamba, retired, says efforts are on to secure the release of the remaining in captivity. the 30 students and the teacher are to undergo medical screening and support before they are allowed to be reunited with their families. President Muhammadu Buhari has condemned killings of scores of people in villages in Zamfara by escaping bandits. In sympathizing with the survivors, the president said the army, the Air Force are working together to get rid of the criminal gangs that are reigning a time of terror over the states. Similarly, Governor Bello Matawalle also visited the Emir of Anka and Emir of Bukuyum, in whose area domain the attack took place. The Emir of Anka, Alhaji Atahiru Ahmed, said 22 persons were killed in his domain, while the Emir of Bukuyum, Alhaji Muhammad Usman, said 36 people were killed. The governor, however, was very livid because the media had reported that families were claiming about 143 persons were killed. The governor, in his reaction, said the media is quoting scary figures, adding that those who report deliberate falsehood about bandits in Zamfara will be treated as terrorists. He said it is obvious his administration is not only threatened by bandits, but also political bandits in towns and villages. He identified these as politicians who are manipulating the crisis and the informants who are also aiding the criminal bandits. There's some good news coming from the Senate. The Senate Public Accounts Committee says they have discovered proceeds of the defunct power holding company. Remember, the forerunner of the current electricity distribution companies around the country, had hidden some amount in the commercial bank. The sum is said to be about 14.7 billion, and it was alleged to have been hidden by the Bureau for Public Enterprises. The BPE has indicated that, has denied that, but the leadership is reporting that that was discovered in the report of the 2017 submitted to by the Auditor General of the Federation to the Senate Public Accounts Committee. The Senate Public Accounts Committee are following that critically. The ECOWAS leaders at its extraordinary summit in Accra has given direction about sanctions to be imposed on the military junta in Mali. Among the sanctions are borders are to be closed, and also this was because of the delay in handing over by the military junta. But the proposal to postpone the election, which was scheduled for next month until December, has been rejected by the ECOWAS community leaders. In fact, it's the first time we are having such a proactive action against coup on the continent of Africa. Even the predecessor of the AU, the Organization of African Unity, have never been this bold to impose sanctions to enforce the will of the community. A 48-year-old Iloduba Augustine, who was arrested upon arriving at Akanu Ibiam Airport, where he later on was to excrete cocaine pellets. It was reported that he arrived on New Year's Eve and was placed on observation. He had now confessed to a drug law enforcement officer that he actually ingested 58 pellets before he departed Sao Paulo in Brazil. He excreted 48 of them in Addis Ababa and sold them to about 1 million to be delivered to a Kenyan. He continued his journey to Nigeria, where he still had 10 pellets. He said he was hoping to sell those 10 on the streets of Lagos. And at Mina, a 500-level student of the Federal University of Technology, Mina, has been arrested at Gidam Kwano with quantities of what is described as loud and tramadol. And also in Otukpo at Jada Hotel, a 21-year-old lady, Shido Ben, was arrested with cocaine. She had traveled from Abuja to sell the illicit drug in Benue State. And in Benin City, a fake security agent was arrested. He had imported what has been described as drug chocolate and these pellets they sell for children in secondary school into the country from Canada.
It's a scary situation we find ourselves in, and I'm glad that the war against drugs is sort of succeeding, and we see a lot of arrests, and I believe that it will reduce the intake of these drugs by our youths, which practically destroys them.
Yes.
Okay, Bayo, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Nigeria. We appreciate your time. We'll take a break now. When we return, our conversation on war against insurgency will begin. Don't go away.
The ever-busy ancient city of Onitsha is a commercial hub with millions of commuters seamlessly linking other states daily for business, leisure, and other purposes. To upscale its road network, the construction of a 1.6-kilometer-long second Niger bridge, including a 10.3-kilometer highway furnished with other infrastructure, has been in motion by the federal government. This project will ease congestion on the existing 56-year-old Onitsha bridge and boost the economic capacity of the state as it easily connects to other parts of the country. The completion of the world-class second Niger Bridge Onitsha will be one of the many proud moments of the state, its people, Nigerians, and foreign investors. Onitsha, which hosts the largest market in Africa, is geared up to boast of an impressive road network. Once again, these moments are made alive by the federal government, and it is deserving of all the applause.
The center is purposely established in order to provide these services that are examinations, medical examinations, and investigations that were not provided for in Kano as well as the entire Northwest region. It's equipped with modern technological equipment in terms of radiological services. We have MRI 1.5 Tesla. We have digital X-ray as well as 4D ultrasound equipment. The importance of the center cannot be overemphasized. Just within 1 year, the center attended to thousands and numerous patients as well as medical examinations. NKDC is established in order also to provide these healthcare facilities at a discounted price.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Arise, O Nigerians! Let's applaud the courage of Flight Lieutenant Abayomi Dairo, aka the Aggressor, for his skillful and dogged escape from the bloodthirsty bandits in the forest of Zamfara State. 3 hearty cheers also to all military and security personnel who are tirelessly protecting fellow Nigerians from insurgency and banditry while maintaining peace and order. Nigerians are proud of Abayomi Dairo and all our gallant men and women in uniform for sacrificing so much to keep us safe. We admire your courage and we say thank you. God bless the armed forces. God bless Nigeria. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, as they would say, the die is cast. We're about getting to the nitty-gritty of our conversation this morning on Good Morning Nigeria. And our conversation, as we reminded you earlier, as we told you earlier, is on the war against insurgency in Nigeria. And to start our conversation, let's listen into background reports put together by our correspondent, Uyemi Ajayi.
Boko Haram insurgency, kidnappings, banditry, and other criminal vices are negative realities bedeviling the country for about a decade. Tackling these challenges headlong, the federal government made significant progress in the fight against insurgency by reclaiming the strongholds of Boko Haram in several local government areas in Borno State. The armed forces proceeded to decimate the insurgents, leading to the killing of factional leaders Chekau and Banawi. The acquisition of sophisticated firepower by the federal government, such as the purchase of $593 million worth of military equipment, which consists of 12 Super Tucano A-29 surveillance and attack planes, among other weapons, aided the fight against insurgency, and the terrorists are now surrendering in droves. Insurgency is, however, manifesting in other forms such as banditry and kidnapping, with the fleeing terrorists resorting to attacks on soft targets in the human population. The federal government in 2021 secured the declaration of bandits as terrorists in the bid to deal a final blow to the enemies of the state. This move has brought a lot of positive results, as many kidnapped victims have regained their freedom, with a lot of the bandits and kidnappers killed during confrontation with the military. In an exclusive interview with the Nigerian Television Authority, President Muhammadu Buhari confirms that his administration is capable of ensuring a more secured Nigeria before handing over in 2023. He also pledged continued support for the military in terms of provision of equipment and welfare to discharge their constitutional role.
Dealing with the militants, if people bother to reflect on how we find the northeast and south, and how much progress we have made, and acquiring helicopters, aircraft, their maintenance, their ammunition, armored cars, to counter effectively the bandits. They cost money and they cost time for training and adaptation.
As the government intensifies the fight against insecurity in the country, what are the challenges and the prospects in winning the fight? The actors and analysts will give their perspectives shortly.
And we have people who know to discuss this topic. And let me first introduce our guest, General Lucky Irabo, Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, General.
Thank you. Thank you.
And also joining us in the studio is Dr. Kabir Adamu, a security risk management expert and regular security analyst on Good Morning Nigeria. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, and compliments of the season to you.
Thank you, Jumai, and same to you.
All right, joining us from our Jos studio is Sabila Joshak. He's a retired Deputy Inspector General of Police. We always appreciate you, sir, and compliment of the season.
Thank you for having me.
And we also like to formally, even though we had exchanged pleasantries when you came into the studio, but Happy New Year to you, General.
Happy New Year
and
to you.
Congratulations officially.
Thank you very much, Claire, and thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
All right.
It's good to see you.
Okay, so let's begin with, I'd like to begin from when your promise, your oath, when you were appointed as the CDS, and you promised to, I want to read out some part, within a short time, offer an inspiring right leadership, and of course, that you will in no short time take action that will significantly add value to the security disposition across the country. Those were your promises.
Correct.
What's the update so far?
Well, before I go to the optics, I'd like to use this opportunity to thank Nigerians and to also thank veterans. And I'm sure you know that this week marks the climax of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day for the year 2022. I'd like to pay very glowing tribute to our veterans and, of course, our colleagues that are serving for the very wonderful works that they've done throughout the years and, of course, currently, and they'll continue to do. The year 2022 or 2021, in retrospect, and, of course, in the light of the promises that I made when Mr. President appointed me as the Chief of Defense Staff, it remains true. And I'd like to say that true to the promise and with the commitment of all the officers and men of the armed forces, along with other security agencies, we've been able to stabilize the security situation across the country. No doubt, it's not yet time for Uhuru. It's no doubt about it. There are quite a lot of mileage that we need to cover. But I'd like to say that where we are right now is far better than where we were at the time that those promises were made. And I want to also perhaps help to reflect on the Yuletide season that we just celebrated. You can recall that it was a peaceful one, and I'm sure you know that the enemies of the state are never, of course, at rest. They're always not asleep. And of course, for us to have had an extensive and very elaborate and peaceful period, there are men who, of course, have been up without sleeping to ensure that the rest of the citizens sleep. So I want to say that, yes, those promises as they were made remains true, and we'll continue to work very assiduously to ensure that in this new year we'll upscale our activities, given the experiences that we've had, to be able to ensure that within the length and breadth of our nation, that peace will be restored totally. This is a commitment, and I'm glad that Mr. President re-echoed it, and of course the support that Mr. President has given to us is enormous, and he has also pledged, of course, to give greater support. And I think that for this year, 2022, there's greater good that holds for everyone within the security, subsector of our nation. So this is perhaps what I need, and I believe that as we progress in this interview, we will
That's the
expound
story
it.
so far.
Yes.
That's the story. Yes, Claire, when you came to Maiduguri, that was when he said Boko Haram has been technically defeated. That was when you were in the studio. You said it, and technically defeated. Where are we now? Well, for the Northeast operation, of course, the results are very clear, and I'm sure you know, as we've reported in the past, that currently we have over 22,000 that have defected to government forces. That didn't just come because they chose to defect. It's by virtue of the impact of our operational engagement that have led to that. And I believe that for those who are in the Northeast, they will have, of course, been seeing the manifestations of the impact of the operations and how a lot of impact have been made. And of course, in the review that I listened to earlier on, of course, you also heard that the two key leaders of Boko Haram and ISWAP were taken out in the year 2021. And that, of course, at some point when I was interviewed, whether Banawi was dead, and I said he was dead and he remains dead, and certainly cannot rise up. And so there are a good number of other of the senior leadership of Boko Haram and ISWAP that we have also taken out. So currently, Northeast remains on the trajectory of returning to normalcy. And this is precisely what is part and parcel of our plan, to strengthen our resolve, to strengthen, of course, the operational plan that we have. And of course, given all the platforms that have come, I believe that true to our plan and objective, that it will be achieved.
When you made that remark, and indeed we had you right here in the studio to speak on the issues, on successes, on your efforts, you were the theater commander of Operation Lafayette Dole. Correct. And in your words, here right here in the studio, you said we have won the war, but not the peace. Correct. Those were your words. Correct. Are we still trying to win the peace? Because we already talked about stability. Right. How far have we, what efforts have we made to winning the peace?
Peace is a process. It's not an end state. A process in the sense that within the matrix, and I'm glad Gabriel is here, is an analyst. Within the matrix of our operational plan, the campaign schematics that we have, what we're doing now is to continuously create the ambience that will enable other stakeholders to begin to take root. And I'm sure, by virtue of your engagement with other stakeholders, you know that NGOs, both local and international, working not only in Maiduguri, but of course the entire Northeast, they've increased in the numbers. We've also realized that issues that have to do with the return of the IDPs to their homesteads, which the Borno State government is championing, among several other engagements. So what other indicators do we want require to know that we're beginning to build peace and then to ensure that everyone live in peace and harmony? And I also want to perhaps recall the fact that at some point Adamawa and Yobe states were at the center of it all. But of course, from the report reportage that perhaps I believe you're privy to, you have seen that, Adamawa and Yobe states appear not to be within the mainstream of issues when security in the Northeast is being discussed. That didn't just come. That, of course, is also part and parcel of the peace process, which by virtue of the engagement that we have had, along with other security agencies and, of course, other stakeholders, that we have been able to come to that. And I think that what needs to be mentioned is that we must continue to remain on the trajectory of having to ensure that normalcy returns, returning all agencies of governance, agencies of government, and ensuring that governance, which of course is more critical at the local level, is returned as it should be. And it's only when we get to that state that we can say, yes, we can beat our chest, and that we'll perhaps begin to think of how we're going to draw down and then hand over the reins of security management to the police and, of course, other security agencies. And this is precisely what we're looking at. And I believe that in due course, that will be achieved.
Okay, despite the wins, especially in 2021, there must be challenges as these ragtag elements continue to spread across the Northeast, the North Central, the Northwest, and creating havoc, destroying communities. It cannot even be quantifiable, the destruction, the devastation on the psyche of the people and the economy itself. So, despite the wins, let's hear about the challenges.
Well, I'll rather, instead of talking about the challenges, I'd rather, talk about the opportunities. No doubt life in itself is riddled with challenges. Challenges are there for man to confront. That's the whole essence of existence. We're here to solve problems. So as problem solvers, we see what others refer to as challenges as opportunities. For me, yes, of course, there were a lot of destructions. Development has, of course, been truncated. But I think that that's also a good starting point for us to know that never again should we have miscreants in armies being given support by the locals. And I think that the experiences in the Northeast is enough to be able to underscore that point. And so eventually, when normalcy returns, I believe that resources will now be properly channeled, and of course development, what development should do, construction of roads, provision of amenities, and a whole lot of other things. What role do they play in terms of security provisioning? I believe that those are opportunities that we've been able to learn from the the challenges that we've had from the experiences that we had in the past. And I also believe that, of course, the need for education, where what we have been able to experience, speaks to the fact that education is key. It is only by education that you're able to broaden your perspective. You're able to open up opportunities and make everyone to understand the policies of government and to be able to also take certain steps such that miscreants will not take advantage of the populace. So that, among several other opportunities, I believe, are quite clear that going forward we will leverage. And of course, when I say we, I'm talking about the totality of government, and of course all the citizens will be able to leverage to be able to make progress.
Let me, personally, from my perspective, commend, you and indeed the AFN for the, reduction in the tempo of what one of the soldiers we met in the front line called music. It's been drastically reduced, even, which means that the now terrorists, the bandits now declared terrorists, no longer have capacity to infiltrate areas they normally would have. So for that, we commend you. But I'd like to also commend you for the release of the 30 students of Federal Government College, Birin just over the weekend, which is quite commendable. Everybody has been happy. But there are others who are still in captivity. For instance, Leah Sharibu, the Chibok girls, the Bertot students, and a lot of others. First, were these releases voluntary, negotiated, or interplay of intelligence mediation between you? Or maybe you want to share,
Well, these are not for public consumption, but I like to say that what's good about the release is that the liberty of those school children, of course, those and their handlers, talking about the teachers, is what we should thank God for. And of course, for those that are still remaining in captivity, I think what I like to assure Nigerians is that their liberty is in sight. The process that led to their release, of course, is not what is necessary to be discussed, but it's just to say that criminals remain criminals wherever they are. They also, want to cash in on certain opportunities that or certain situations that they term as opportunities. And so I'm hopeful that as we work very closely with other agencies, that the liberty of those very cherished children and their school teachers is in sight.
So the issue of the Leah and the Chibok girls, you're still working on it?
Yes, of course. For Leah and the rest, don't also forget that. Yes, of course, the military remains at the forefront of having to bring peace and security, but you must also understand that that is a little bit away from the scope of the armed forces. But of course, with the privileged position that I hold, I'm aware of plans and of course processes that are in place to ensure that not just Leah Sharibu and the rest of the Chibok girls, every other person that has been held captive, that they are released. But may I also let you know that just about 3 weeks ago or thereabout, one of the Chibok girls we rescued one of the Chibok girls.
Do we know if Leah Sharibu is still alive?
Well, again, that remains a discussion that, in my view, shouldn't be for the public.
Okay.
But so far, so good. And I'd like to reassure Nigerians that, and of course, the world at large, that the federal government and, of course, using the military and security agencies as tools of policy implementation are working very hard to ensure that everyone that has been held captive, regain their liberty and freedom.
Okay, before we join our other guests, let me ask you this question. Is the military now in Nigeria fighting a global war?
Of course. I mean, Nigeria is part and parcel of the global system. The international system, of course, is bedeviled with transnational criminals, criminal elements, and some who have also developed criminal franchises. And so currently when you hear of Islamic State in West African province, what you find, and I believe that as we also go on within this interview, we'll be able to understand that when you are looking at, terrorism, insurgencies, and of course other criminal enterprises, there are networks that are local, networks that are international in nature, because the funding, of course, is very critical. And so when you also have, drug barons, drug networks, there is an interplay, there's a marriage, of course, an intercourse of a sort with other elements of criminals. Criminality comes in very different shades and forms. And so these elements working across the world, trying to have some form of handshake to be able to, meet their objectives. So Nigeria is not left out. So because we are within the international system, criminality is not defined by borders. Criminality is also not defined by ethnicity or religion. And so for the criminal himself, the goal is for him to achieve his objective. How it comes, the end for him justify the means. So for us, we put all this in context in our analysis before we come up with plans to be able to redress them. So and that's precisely what we try to do. Sometimes, a few individuals may not actually know the complexities that are involved. But of course, opportunities such as these help to illuminate the complex situation and that attends to these issues. And so when the results are not coming as expected within the time frame, of course it's by virtue of the complexity that's involved in bringing out solutions to it that perhaps leads to extension of timelines in terms of meeting of operational objectives. But I must say that so far so good. It's been, of course, a good period of new knowledge, new experiences, and of course new partnerships, which have now put us in better stead to be able to forge ahead and, of course, increase the steam. And I'm hopeful that Nigeria certainly will continue to have a sigh of relief in terms of, peace and security related matters.
I'm still talking about the collaboration between ISIS and Boko Haram that gave birth to ISWAP.
Yes, of course. I mean, like I said, this interplay, this intercourse between, different criminal elements remains the key. Of course, you recall that when ISIS was dislodged in Syria, and as well as their engagement, the engagement of Al-Qaeda in various parts of the world, especially in the Middle East. Of course, because that is their engagement, that's what they have chosen as part of their lifestyle. They must seek other havens for them to be able to operate. And so they began to see, some form of connection with Boko Haram. And that's the reason why, of course, sometime in 2020, there was, an engagement between ISIS and Boko Haram. And of course, also leading to the movement of those criminals into the West African province. And so they created the Islamic State in West African province, to which Boko Haram, at some point, aligned themselves with. And so issues that attended to the death of Shekau, also was linked to all that. So what I'm trying to say is that at any point in time, there is an analysis, there is an engagement amongst criminal elements. And so so they want to choose a path that will enable them to be able to obtain, of course, what they stamp as their goal. But for us as government security agencies, we must factor all this, of course, working in partnership with our global partners to ensure that the indices are properly factored and proper plans are made to be able to redress those imbalances. And then, of course, this is precisely what has led us to the gains that we've made thus far.
Okay, you started off by commending, your men. Men on the field, and the air, and all that for, the success so far. And I like, just before we escalate our conversation, I'd like for you to talk briefly on the morale of your men now, and how the gazetting of the bandits as terrorists, how you received it.
Well, for the morale of the men, it can only get better. I must say that we're pleased with the support of the federal government, and Mr. President has been quite, it's been right in his heart to ensure that the men receive the best of attention. And I'm glad, and as the CDS, to report to you and, of course, to Nigerians that, of course, that all our troops, of course, they have no reason to complain. But that does not mean that our welfare disposition cannot get better. But of course, we can only ask for more if we understand, if we understand that we are not alone. And of course, within the economy itself, you must not be asking for what the economy cannot provide. And so within what we now have within the country in terms of the weight of the administration, I think we have had a fair share of the support. And so the welfare of our men is quite good. And of course, promises have been made for it to get better. And issues that have to attend to our veterans too. Of course, you know that there are issues that have to do with taking care of their welfare. Their pensions are being paid promptly. Even, of course, the consequential adjustment in the increase in terms of adjustment in the emoluments for pensioners. That, of course, for members of the armed forces, those who serve in the armed forces, that has also been captured in 2022 budget. And of course, I mean, there is transparency currently, and everybody knows what his entitlements are, and they are being paid. Now, coming to the issue of gazetting the bandits as terrorists, of course, that's a news that's quite gladdening. That has always been what we had desired. What it means is that our TTPs, in terms of tactics, techniques, and procedures that we use in handling them, certainly we have to change. And so we have also factored that, and that's the reason why I believe going forward, and I'm sure you'll be reading, as to what the outcomes of those engagements are. It might be inappropriate to begin to tell you what the details of those plans are, and it's not for public, but I want to let you know that, of course, that fact of
declaration,
gazetting them as terrorists, also give it a global disposition, a global form that will enable other key actors, global actors, to now take certain important actions against them. So for me, it can only get better, and we will give them the bloody nose that they so desire.
General Rabo, let's allow you to take a breath now.
Yes, have a cup of water.
And take some water. Let's bring in Kabir Adamu. He's a security risk management expert and a regular security analyst here in NT on Good Morning Nigeria. Let's have your assessment of the security situation in the year bygone, and what do we expect to see in 2022?
Thank you, Jume. And I was a little bit worried for General. I know he's capable, but yeah. 2021 was a topsy-turvy year. Let me use data to explain what I mean, and to also corroborate the point made by General Irabo. Totally, we're looking at a figure of between 9,000 to 10,000 deaths in 2021. So very, very worrisome. And this is not an indictment in any way of any particular agency in government. General Irabo emphasized the word stakeholders. And there are roughly around 27 ministries, departments, and agencies that are involved in security in the country. So when you look at that responsibility, it's something that would be apportioned across all of these 27 ministries, departments, and agencies. Now, from the first quarter of 2021, the deaths hovered around 500 to 600 month to month. By June, it had reached 1,032 number of persons that were killed in 1 month. But to emphasize the point made by General Irabo, from that period onward, following a presidential directive, we saw enhanced, especially military operations. And that figure was brought down initially to that 600 that the year started with. But by November, it had been brought down to 400. And then by December, that 400 sustained. So progress is being made. But when you look at the global picture of about 10,000 people killed, it's very worrisome. These are people's fathers, people's mothers, sisters, brothers, children. So going forward, we're hoping that that figure will be brought down. That 400 that I talked about, we're hoping that we'll wake up and see 100, and then hopefully we'll see even less than that. Looking at 2022, the year that we're in, it's a pre-election year. Already the political class have started the dynamics ahead of the 2023 elections. Now, on the one hand, we're likely going to see enhanced effort to manage the security situation. And then unfortunately, and the president has spoken to this, where he said security has been weaponized. I'm quoting Mr. President almost verbatim. And so it's very likely that the opposition and the SSS has released a statement, if you recall, late last month, where they actually confirmed this point. There is an attempt to quote-unquote weaponize insecurity to achieve political objectives. So we're likely to see that, more of that, in 2022 ahead of the elections. So all of these 27 ministries, departments, and agencies, I believe, if I'm going to mention a few things that I hope to see, which already looking at the budget for 2021 and the budget for 2022, there were elements that indicated that intelligence gathering, especially data, one of the key points that has arisen from the modern day world is data, rules the world. So I am very glad to have seen in the 2021 budget an attempt by these 27 ministries and departments and agencies in security. Their ability to understand and use data is increasing. We're not yet there, but I'm seeing an attempt. And the role of the Ministry of Digital Economy is critical in this regard. I know it's not exactly a security department, but it has to be incorporated into security. Any country that has advanced in security understands and manages data. So that is something I'm hoping to see. And I would quickly explain why this is important. Artificial intelligence is, in today's world, being used to influence people positively and negatively. It was demonstrated that in 2019, that attempt was made in Nigeria. So as we go into the elections in 2023, 2022 is the deciding year, we're going to see more of that, the use of AI, artificial intelligence, in that digital space in an attempt to influence either positively or negatively. So it is imperative that the security departments understand this concept and not only understand it, but attempt to reduce or even block that negative influence of the use of AI. Bots are going to be created within the digital space to emphasize fake news, and in an attempt to achieve an objective, we have to have the capacity to block that. And I'm really glad that, like I said, I've seen attempts to do that in the budget. Then in terms of winning the hearts and minds of the people, which General Irabu spoke, that digital space is very important. Today's youths, frankly, they don't watch, platforms like this. They are on the digital space, name them, all those social media platforms. So how do we now translate the advocacy, the sensitization, the awareness that we're doing into that digital space? So that's the second importance of security using that digital space. And then lastly, the mobilization of the people to support government policy, especially the youths. So many aspects of this. I think that digital space is important in that regard. So going into 2022, this year that we're in, I'm hoping to see more of that, although with a degree of concern about manipulation of that process. So I think there must be a balance here and there. In terms of the coordination between the various security agencies, I must commend General Irabo. As analysts, we've seen a remarkable improvement in that area. There is more synergy between the various security agencies, both at the strategic level and at the operational level. In the successes that I said led to that reduction, we're talking of almost a 50% reduction month to month in terms of cash fatalities. And a lot of that is as a result of the synergy. To also borrow from the general, and maybe perhaps he was a little bit diplomatic, the military is deployed in almost 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. Those are multiple battlefronts that the military is dealing with. And frankly, the military should be commended and must be commended for that. Is it by desire? Not very likely. Just last week, his governor, I think from the Southwest, was unhappy because the military was being withdrawn, according to him, from correctional services. So there is a desire by the political class, it appears, to have that kind of deployment, when in reality, those responsibilities are really not the responsibilities of the military. I mentioned that there are 27 ministries, departments, and agencies in security. So perhaps going forward, and if I'm going to advise, that is one area that we need to look critically at, the adequate use of the resources at our disposal. The military is better suited to handle certain security challenges, and the earlier we start using that, so that this stretched nature that the military is battling with, it can focus its resources to deal with those key challenges that, as a country, we want to be addressed. You talked about the transition, of banditry from criminality to terrorism. That is one aspect. Insurrections are other aspect, and there is a lot of it within the country. Insurgency is another aspect. So that adequate use of resources, I think, going forward, if I'm going to advise, that is one. And then lastly, the funding of some of these operations. I know it's another key challenge, and I know the general was a little bit diplomatic in that regard. And there has been several discussions within the political space on how to enhance that funding. So we're hoping that that area too will be looked at. Yes, there is a burden on the country in terms of our economic resources. COVID-19 has not helped matters, unfortunately. But then it's a requirement. And if you give somebody responsibility, just like I've explained, deployed in almost 36 states of the Federation and FCT, then you have to find a way to fund those operations.
Dr. Adamu, thank you. Let's give you a breather and then go to Joe's studio where DIG Habila Joshak is joining us. DIG, again, the police is the civil component of in the war against insurgency. With regards to winning the peace, what's the conversation around that from your end?
What we've had this morning is true, and it's very, very exciting. It is true that the Nigerian police has demanded constitutional responsibility of ensuring the safety of people and their property in a state. Here again, we have the military driving the engine because of the escalation of the nature of the insecurity in this country. The Nigerian police also is not actually pushed aside, but they are also operating side by side. With this achievement and with this effort so far, it is important that the Nigerian police should also be repositioned and re-strategized so that as soon as a place is cleared, it is the responsibility of the Nigerian police to occupy that place and also to ensure that that place is not retaken. We also need to also ensure that the Nigerian police also be looked at so that the intelligence gathering will be sufficient enough to be able to puncture some of the plans that are placed on the table by these bandits or these terrorists, so that it can be bust before it's been implemented. This lack of getting intelligence from the community, because the community also must build confidence in the Nigerian police. And that's why we're insisting that the police must work with the community where they are. And they must be very frank and open. And when the confidence of members of the public in said communities is built up, they will be able to open up and volunteer information. There is no incident that has happened that one or two of the people in that community must have heard about. But because of fear and apprehension, because of lack of trust, they are likely to hold back. But I can see now that the Nigerian police, you could see the response of the Nigerian police in terms of trying to curtail these incidences and insecurity. And so I advise that the government also should look at that and make sure that what the Nigerian police require to be able to hold a place that has been cleared by the military and also build confidence in members of the public so that intelligence and information that will flow from them will be verified and become an intelligence so that this operation can go smoothly.
Okay, Joshua, can you tell us what does the police require to be able to re-strategize and, you know, work towards ensuring that the civilian population are safe? What do they need now?
The Nigerian police needs to have equipments, both motorized and that which will also enable them to know what kind of plans these bandits are up to and where next are they likely to strike. This is very easy to find because some of these things are discussed and are leaked. But because of the inability of the police, in terms of their number, in terms of some equipments, the ones that are reasonable enough because we know of the economy performance and the challenges. If that is done, then the Nigerian police also themselves must be able to build trust in the community, so that whatever that is likely to happen, like I said, will be let known to them. And some of the things might not require large budgeting, but there are some that will require. And so we have to look at the Nigerian police and provide also our police stations and accommodation for the police, particularly in the rural areas, so that they can be able to interact with members of the public and they will understand better what is happening. There is a lot of absence, there are a lot of gap, because there are a lot of places where police operate, but there's no police barracks. And so when there are no police barracks, when there are emergencies, the DPO or the area commander or the commissioner of police find it very difficult to get the men to respond at short notice. And I think this is the time that we should be able to dominate the community with the presence of the police. And when the police permeate into this, we will be able to find out what is happening and we nip in the bud. This is very, very important.
There are communities right now where displaced persons are returning and would need, their police protection and all that. How is the police relating with these people and helping to, reintegrate them back to their communities?
I understand once people returning from where they've been taken to, there is more to that. We also have to involve psychologists and others to be able to remold them back and to reassure them that they have the right to live and that they should put behind them some of the horror experiences that they went through. The Nigerian police also, like I said, should be able to have sufficient men well-defined for them to be able to protect the where these returnees are kept, and also have some responsibility of educating them and reassuring them and making them live again. This, I think, also does not require large sum of budgetary allocation, but repositioning. And I think that the Nigerian police, for now, you could see that their response is swift compared to what it is. You could also see that they're also trying to key in with what the military is doing. And I think that there's a lot of effort that have been put on, and there's more to come. And I believe that it is a matter of time that these terrorists will be weakened. And I'm very, very sure that if this signature is on and the tempo is sustained, then the Nigerian police also will have a role to play that will also enhance activities to end this terrorism.
Okay, Habila Josak, thank you so much. We'll come back to you in the course of the program. Let's now return to General Lucky Urabo in the studio. We're just talking about equipment and what the police needs to ensure that they can re-strategize and make sure that they are able to make communities safe, because that is actually their role. Let's come back to the military. Severally in the past, the Nigerian military has complained of lack of equipment, to effectively prosecute this war. But now, we've seen so many out there with the Tucano, super jets, fighter jets, and other equipments procured for the military. Hopes have been raised, and we sort of smell, the sweet smell of victory. But are we there yet?
Well, thank you very much. You're right that quite a lot has been provided for the military. You're equally right that in the past we have complained about lack of equipment. But earlier on, I alluded to the fact that challenges are just opportunities. So what the narrative is currently is to begin to see some of those things that have constituted as challenges to be opportunities. No doubt that the military requires more. If you, and I'm sure perhaps this where analysts like Kabir, Dr. Kabir and others will come in. Within the military, there's what we call table of equipment, organization and equipment. In a layman's language, and to bring it home right here in the studio. Here in NTA, you have a setup. In this studio, for example, you have those who must work here and what set of equipment that must be here for what is being discussed here in the studio to be heard across the world. Now, if you have only 20% of those requirements, then of course you are not going to be as effective as it would be if you were at 75–80% optimum. So the provisioning that I've had over the past years for the military, and I want to be very categorical for the year 2021, has been quite massive. But we're not there yet. But then we are glad that we've gotten them. Where we want to get to is a level, and that's, of course, the promise that Mr. President has given to us, and he's working at that. And if you look at the provisioning for the 2022 budget, you can see the trajectory. But it's to say that we do not want to see the military go into an area and remain there in perpetuity. If there is any reason for the military to be deployed going forward, that is, when we would have been out of this current situation, it will be such that it will be time-bound and the impact of the operation will be felt. It is not where we'll be given reasons for failure. So that certainly it's what we want to there is no, where lies my honor and dignity as a commander? If, of course, I go into an area, rather than come out with success stories, I'm telling stories. But, of course, those stories came because the fundamentals were actually missing. And that's the reason why, by the framework of the plan and provisioning plan that has been made, is to see us to get to that level of operational efficiency, of course, anchored on the right training, the right logistics, equipment, in terms of equipment, of course, the maintenance of those, and of course, other enablers. Then, of course, you now begin to see, a professional status of an armed force that when it's given, when the commander-in-chief gives any directive that to that extent, then, of course, you'll be able to see, quick results, you turning around the situation and making sure that the objectives are engaged. And this is precisely what we're doing, and we're on the right course. I'd like to assure you. And why I'm making these explanations is that, the country is large, the stakeholders are many, and so sometimes you are forced to begin to speak to the inner workings of these agencies and, of course, what the government intends to do. Even though details are not necessary, but sometimes you need to explain the process so that when you're talking about apportioning resources, where, of course, you know that for the basket itself, the pot, there are many hands entering the pot. But what does each hand, what do they take out from that pot is what matters. It is only an understanding of this situation that will enable other hands to say, look, let us be a little bit circumspect as to what we desire from that pot, because we need to give priority to other hands that should play the role. I'm sure you know that security is very pivotal when you're talking about development. And also development also plays a key role when you're talking about security. But chicken and egg, which one comes first? So in this circumstance, I believe that greater priority is being given to the security subsector, the military being the chief in this sense. And then, of course, at some point, of course, other agencies and other sectors will now begin to take a larger chunk because the military and, of course, the security agencies would have been able to stabilize and ensure that they can easily fill in the gap as they do come. So, coming back to you, we're not there yet, but we're sure on the path to getting there.
Okay, now, I'm sure you must have heard, read, or watched on TV when people talk about, sometimes they say the bandit terrorists now, or the kidnappers, or are better equipped than our security forces, or that someone somewhere, has not pressed the, button for something to be done, given the impression that, somebody is actually, there seems to be some form of interference in your activities. Before now, in 2015, you were taking orders. Now, the orders falls at your table.
Correct.
Is there any form of interference in the activities that you do?
Certainly not. And that's the reason why, again, taking liberty of this forum to redress some of those narratives that you hear out there. I've also come to realize that because we are not there yet, of course, anyone can make any claim. And so it is when things are not completely how they should be that, of course, those who are affected certainly will have to, express their inner feelings, of course, their frustrations in various forms. And part of those expressions could be that, look, the military is being told not to take certain action. I laugh at such. But again, you can only understand with them. And of course, I feel pain that, there are things we should do that we've not been able to do. It's more painful. Do you know the pain that I feel when any of my soldiers, they are killed, and I go to the hospital to see those that are wounded in terrible conditions? In fact, this is the reason why, if you observed, for the past couple of weeks, we've been creating programs to appreciate, our men that are serving, and we call it tribute to our troops. We needed to appreciate them, to let them know that we feel their pain, and of course, urging Nigerians to support our cause. And I'm glad to report that, of course, that Nigerians in their numbers are supporting our cause. So this is the issue. Nobody, Mr. President, has given a mandate, and he keeps recurring it. Each time we go for a National Security Council meeting, he expresses, said, look, you go all out there and deal with anyone who is an enemy of the state, those who do not want peace to return. How best do you want, what more do I need than to, when he gives that express mandate to me and, of course, to the service chiefs and all the heads of security agencies when we go for such meetings. So for me, it is to know that I have the backing of the Commander-in-Chief, and I also have the support, of course, of all Nigerians in this enterprise. But again, I'm also, experienced enough to know that even within the polity, within, the environment, there are those who are not so much of friends as they appear to be. And there are those, of course, those who have been fighting, talking about the Boko Haram terrorists and other criminal gangs. Who are they? Many of them, of course, they are Nigerians. 99% of them are Nigerians. Of course, Dr. Kabir and the rest of his colleagues, they have analyzed and termed, the kind of war we are fighting to be asymmetric war. Mm-hmm. It's not impossible that out there, outside of this studio, I will be meeting those who could come to want to pledge support, actually not working in our interests. They could be working our purposes with us. But of course, it is by virtue of, the technical resources that are available to us that will enable us to, yes, that's intelligence in a nutshell, that will enable us to be able to distill those who are friends and those who are enemies. Even within the international system, there are those, of course, who want to perpetuate, an abnormal situation within the country to further their own ends. And
we saw that happen during the election, for instance. Of course, in the U.S.
Of course. That that's part and parcel of man's existence in it. So it's for us as a people to understand that those who have been saddled with certain responsibilities, we must give them we must trust them, and we must give them all the support that is necessary.
So there's that
does not also obviate the need for them to carry out certain analysis and ensure that they are on the right course. Transparency is key. We also having to have proper feedback in a manner that meets the rules. Giving feedback just as we're doing in this studio as part of it, to ensure that, look, there is accountability, there is feedback mechanism for others to be able to know that if we are giving you support, you must give us the confidence to be able to trust you more. And so it's a win-win thing, and that's precisely what we try to do, such that at the end of the day, come on, we're all Nigerians.
Exactly,
we're
all
here.
Nigerians.
We're working for Nigeria, and we're working for ourselves. So why will I not want to be effective? Why will I not want men and women of the armed forces to be effective? Because our kith and kin are within this space. So I tell people that, look, when you make accusations, know that first and foremost, I'm only an individual out of members of my family, my nuclear family. The members of my nuclear family, don't you think that they are first beneficiaries of my effectiveness? And if I'm ineffective, don't you think that they are also victims, that will be victims of my ineffectiveness? So also it is for every member of the armed forces and of course all the security agencies. It must be viewed from that context. If it is not, then we begin to read meanings and all that. Those who have been elected, again, there is a mandate on them. And then we have given them that trust, because what we have done is, electing people to position of leadership is actually you entrusting them with responsibilities. And so you must wholeheartedly believe that what they are doing is on course. If there's any reason to doubt them, then of course, when the next time for them to be voted out, then of course you vote them out. But you must understand, and not for you to begin to read meanings and believe and just conjure all manner of inanities, or because you believe that enough is not being done. So bringing it back home to the military, I'm saying that every man and woman that you find in the armed forces, they are there for a purpose. There is an oath of allegiance, and we remain faithful to the oath of allegiance. And we cannot, for whatever reason, for whatever gain, want to go against that oath of allegiance. And I'm using this forum to appeal to Nigerians to begin to give greater support. Of course, they've been quite wonderful, and I can only ask that we escalate that support that we've received thus far. And I want to also thank every one of you who in the media, and of course Kabira and all his analysts, because sometimes they also put us on our toes. They help us to rethink and then to make further analysis to certain actions that we're undertaking.
Indeed, General, we'll come back to you on other issues before the program runs up, but we need to take a break now. When we return, more on the war against insurgency conversation. Don't go away.
Finally, the hero of Nigeria's democracy has arrived. He shall usher us into a new phase of development, peace, and prosperity. He is the father of the new Nigeria, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. Welcome to another season of giving Nigerians hope yet again. We are sure of a great future for both ourselves and generations yet unborn. We look forward to your leading us as a nation into our manifest destiny. Though the challenges against us as a people are many, we know that your leadership shall set us on the right path to our greatness. A new dawn beckons on us all, and having you as our president is a precursor to this. Thank you for believing in Nigeria. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
Since coming into office in 2015, the Buhari administration has recorded unprecedented achievements in all sectors, especially in the provision of infrastructure, which is the key to economic growth. Never in the history of this country has any administration done so much with so little. Recall that when this administration came into office, the price of crude oil, which provides for 80% of Nigeria's budgetary revenues and 95% of foreign exchange earning, dropped drastically, thus reducing the amount of resources available to the federal government. In spite of this, the administration has continued apace with massive infrastructure development.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Nigerians. Against all odds, we shall and must remain united. We may have our challenges, our problems, and setbacks. However, together we shall overcome them all. What doesn't break us shall make us stronger. This is the mindset that shall bring peace, progress, and prosperity to our beloved country. Do not let tribal and religious sentiments govern how you think, act, or feel. Don't be influenced by those who want to destroy our precious national unity. Everybody who is a Nigerian is your brother and your sister. This is the mindset of the new Nigeria. It is also the mindset that we must all adopt. Let us support each other in creating the Nigeria of our dreams. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
The Council of Our Fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Welcome back, and our discussion today is war against insurgency. Let me join Dr. Kabir Adamu. In every crisis situation, there are silent backers. We've seen, exposure of people who have been backing insurgents, bandits across the country. Just last year, we heard about Beirut Change arrest, people who have been laundering money for these insurgents. But we've never, up till now, between the synergy of the judiciary and the military, so we've not seen a single high-profile case that has been prosecuted. Why is that?
There are a lot of reasons, unfortunately, for that. And I take us back to 2015, during the inaugural speech of Mr. President, when he cited one of the reasons, evidence gathering by our law enforcement agencies. No matter how much a judge hates my face, if during the prosecution evidence was not presented to him to tie me to the offense that I'm being, presented to him for as a suspect, he's not going to find me guilty. So that's key. At that time, Mr. President promised he was going to build evidence labs in all our security agencies. So that's key. The ability of our security agencies to gather evidence during the arrest process and then to present that evidence to the prosecutor, who will now go ahead and show the guilt, as it were, of the suspect. It's key. There are several instances, and I'm glad that before we went on air, you talked about inviting the Attorney General of the Federation. I think the synergy I spoke about, there needs to be an improved synergy between the Ministry of Justice and our security agencies, so that ab initio, the security and law enforcement agencies, during the training phase, they understand the correlation between the gathering of evidence and the prosecution of suspects. One, celebrated case that we all know is the case of Evans. He's yet to be convicted. How many years down the road? When he was arrested, some of us stayed back and said, no, this is wrong. We saw how evidence was being tampered with the phones, as an example, that he was using. The police officers that arrested him were touching those phones with their hands. No gloves on site. The house where they arrested him, you could see the number of persons that entered the house and touched virtually everything. So how are you going to present evidence to the court when you've tampered with the evidence? I like citing this case, and this is something that happened, to me directly. I saw it. The vehicle that was used in the Nyanya bombing in 2014, if I remember precisely, the person who investigated that case was able to retrieve the steering wheel of that vehicle after the bomb went off. He dropped that steering wheel on his table. If you enter the office, he points to the steering wheel and tell you this is from the vehicle.
Which is evidence.
The natural tendency is you will touch it. So the evidence destroyed. So this is the point I mean. There must be some form of collaboration between the Ministry of Justice and our law enforcement agencies, and then training should follow to explain the importance of evidence gathering, evidence preservation, and intelligence is also key to this. In today's world, of course, this is something that is traditional to intelligence. You have the human intelligence, you have the technical intelligence, you also have some components of signal in all of this. So bringing all of this together, I believe we need to go back to our training schools, look at these key areas, enhance the capacity of the various players within that sector to gather evidence that would assist. The role of the EFCC, the role of ICPC, the role of NFIU, in both intelligence gathering and the presentation and preservation of evidence is key in this. But beyond all of that, the deterrence element within our criminal justice system is key here. When you don't prosecute, then frankly, the would-be criminal sees it as an opportunity. Kidnap, we're probably going to discuss kidnap in the course of this interview. When we started monitoring kidnap, as far back as, I think, 2009. The figure we're seeing was 200. It grew to about 400. Last year, it was 4,000. Kidnap has become a high-yield activity and low risk. So persons are gladly, as it were, joining the industry and the supply chain that kidnap has become for the purpose of benefiting from it, because frankly, the level of prosecution is very, very, very low. The young person who decides to go this traditional and livelihood, which is livestock rearing, he'll probably spend 20 years, and at the end of the day, he can only show, let's say, 5 million for those 20 years. The person who goes into abduction would probably show 100 million, and the likelihood of him being prosecuted is very slim. So that deterrence element within the criminal justice system, unfortunately, it's not strong at the moment. We need to strengthen it so that the would-be criminal who decides to go into criminality knows that he's going to be arrested and prosecuted. Right now, they don't, because prosecution is at a very low level. So I think to an extent that answers your question. There are several other factors. I've not spoken about our value system. That keeps me up at night.
That's a whole topic for conversation.
Exactly.
Yes.
Dr. Dabu, thank you. Let's also bring in Habila Joshak to also speak to the issue. When you were speaking earlier on, you sounded as if the police is an orphan in the whole component in the fight against insecurity. You also talked about the need to build confidence and trust, and for the police to work with the people. I'm wondering how we can achieve that, because the police is a very vital, has a very vital role in the other aspect of this fight. That is the de-radicalization, rehabilitation, and reintegration of these people, of repentant fighters. Some time ago, someone shared a story with me. She was, going by road from the south, to Abuja. And just a few kilometers into Ondo, they narrowly escaped, being hijacked. And then they drove into a police station to complain. And according to her, the response of the police there was that there's nothing we can do. Is that the kind of, response that will elicit trust and confidence from the people?
No, that is very, very wrong. That is not correct at all, because that was not supposed to be the answer. And that's why I'm saying the Nigerian police is the lead agency in any state, in any country, where things like what is happening now in this country are absent. And so after all this, there's likely, or definitely the Nigerian police will take their position in this country. And their position is about ensuring the internal security of the country. In other words, the purpose of governance or the purpose of government is security and welfare. And the security aspect of an internal security is the Nigerian police. And I'm saying that a lot of these crimes that have been perpetrated, a lot of these attacks, kidnapping and the rest, they don't just come from the blues. It's planned, and some of these plans are known to some of the individuals that live in that community. Those individuals should be able to approach the Nigerian police so that the Nigerian police can nip in the bud what exactly is about to happen. And in other words, if the members of the public have built trust and confidence in the Nigerian police where they live together in that community, they will definitely walk to the police officer and tell him of the plan of these criminals. And before they happen, we will know. It's not possible for people to come from nowhere without getting their core criminals within that community to kidnap in the school or in secondary schools or in schools and take them out and trekked out. All this planning, there are compromises, and these compromises are done by other people around that area, giving them information as to when to come and when to strike. And so when you put in the police, in those days we used to have a police post found in the real rural area with officers and men. We also have a police station also in the rural areas with more population. And then the police division. The police division are found in the local governments and beyond the local governments. And when you have the barracks and keep those people there, definitely whatever that is happening in terms of crime, such police officers will be aware of all that is happening. In other words, they will be able to mix and stay with the people and cross-fertilize ideas, and some of these things will not be happening. And that's why we're saying that the Nigerian police is quite a large population, but the basic equipment must be provided. You can see in Zamfara the role they're playing, and in most of the flashpoints, they are trying to rise up to the challenge, and they're also working with the military. And I'm saying they can do better. They can do a lot of things. They can prevent a lot of things before they occur when you give them simple, basic, necessary tools. These are tools that they must be able to have so that they can function well. These are not luxury, but we're asking for the few things. And you need to have the police in all these rural areas. You need to have them in the communities. And when they stay in the community, members of the community will understand them well and trust them. But when you have people coming in from somewhere to operate, the members of the public are not very free to share ideas and to tell them some of the things that they have seen and they have heard. And so these are some of the things that I said we must go back to the basis to re-establish all these police stations. When there are incidents in some local government, it becomes very difficult for the DPO and the chairman to control because the men are not residing there. The men are far off somewhere, and you can't get them to respond to distress call at short notice. But when you have this division, you have this police station, then all you need to do is to blow whistle and call for emergency operation, and within a very short period, there will be response. We need to go back to the basic.
Okay, thank you so much, Abila Josak. We appreciate your contribution. General Irabo, this conversation we're having, talking about communities contributing to the fight against insurgents and all that, we cannot finish this conversation without talking about the civilian JTF and their contribution to the fight against insurgency in the Northeast. On the final note.
Well, thank you very much. You're very right. The civilian JTF, they played a very critical role. But for a better understanding, it actually forms part and parcel of the community policing strategy, which I believe is very key. Yes, for the Northeast, they've been called civilian JTF. Actually, they are part and parcel of this, if you like, vigilante system, wherein they form component of the community policing. And I think this, in my view, should be promoted across the country, not necessarily for them to begin to carry arms, but of course to be organized in such a manner that they be able to provide, accurate intelligence to the armed security agencies for them to be able to do the job. Going forward, I believe that the Inspector General of Police is very keen on this. We meet regularly in my office, and I know what plans that he has, and a whole lot of structural changes and plans that he is making in this regard. And I believe that going forward, Nigerians will see better policing of our nation in due course. And one thing too, perhaps I need to also add here is, it is what you see that you will get. Nigerians should begin to see good policing. They will get good policing. When we begin to make pronouncements, because those who are policemen, they didn't come from a different space. They are from amongst us, the same way for the members of the armed forces. So Dr. Kabir talked about a value orientation that we have. It is within the values of the nation, the generality that the police have been able to take. And there's also a threshold below which they can't amend anybody. So these are things that are not just within the purview of the police, they are also outside of the purview of the police. The general public must understand that it is what you see. So we must begin to envision better policing, and it is only from that context that we'll be able to empower the police mentally for them to be able to change their orientation and give us better value for the investment that we've made. But I want to tell you that the current Inspector General of Police actually is doing quite well. I mean, we interact almost on a daily basis, and I can tell you that if only we can get greater support. Because for me, I mean, as the CDS, I also desire that we have a more professional and enhanced police in order to reduce the involvement of the members of the armed forces in policing duties. And for that purpose, we have decided to give all the support that police requires to enable them to function optimally.
General Rabo, honestly, I wish we could go on because there's so much to talk about when it comes to fighting insurgency. It's not just in the northern part, but you also have the IPOB activities. You also have the farmer header clashes in other parts of the country. But we actually hit our time target, and we don't want to keep you any much longer. General Lucky Rabo, Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, CDS. It's a pleasure to have you on our program. Good morning, Nigeria.
It's a pleasure to be here too. Thank you.
We also have Dr. Kabir Damo, Security Risk Management Expert and regular security analyst on Good Morning Nigeria. I know you have so much in your tummy to give out, but please just keep it. We'll have another edition and we'll bring you. Thank you as always.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Habila Joshak, a retired Deputy Inspector General of Police, who joined us from our George studio. I keep forgetting that you are retired, but not tired. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. All right, let's take a look at sports now. Host nation Cameroon tournament underdogs Cape Verde both kick off their Africa Cup of Nations campaign with a win.
Burkina Faso became the first nation to score a goal at the ongoing Africa Cup of Nations in Cameroon. In what was the tournament's curtain raiser, the home team looked the more favoured side. However, Burkina Faso, who were laid back and soaking up pressure from the home side for a larger part of the first 20 minutes, sprung a moment of magic in the 23rd minute via Bertrand Traoré's cross, which connected with Gustavo Sangare to give Burkina Faso the lead. Cameroon then drew level from the penalty spot through team skipper Vincent Aboubakar after a nasty challenge in the 6-yard area by team skipper Bertrand Traoré. But he was soon called again to the penalty spot in the final seconds of the first half after another clumsy foul by Issoufou Dayo. The second half was mostly end-to-end, with Burkina Faso coming close in the 54th minute through Bertrand Traoré's double-blocked free kick.
Bayern forward Choupo-Moting came on in the 68th minute but couldn't increase the scoreline for the host nation. It ended 2-1 in favour of host nation Cameroon. The second fixture of the day between Ethiopia and Cabo Verde witnessed the first red card of the tournament as Ethiopia's Yared Baye was sent off for a nasty challenge early on in the game. Cabo Verde created more chances in front of goal and were rewarded deep into the closing stages of the first half after a nod-in by Julio Tavares.
All right, and that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. We thank you, as always, for joining us. Let's do it again tomorrow for another edition. I am Claire Adelabu Abdul Razak.
And I am Juma Yusuf. Do have a great day. But before we go, don't forget to join NT in the fight against rape and rapists.